I've gotten a lot of questions over the years as to why I haven't done any video guides, since, you know, everybody's carrying around a video camera. All of my DSLRs are video cameras. Cameras are small nowadays, and there's really no reason for it. The answer is, quite frankly, laziness. I didn't feel like dealing with editing the video and whatnot. But now that I'm back in Maryland, and there's a smaller number of waterfalls to deal with, I decided to go ahead and start a series of waterfall guides. And so the first one is going to be Falling Branch Falls, which is in Harford County, right at the edge of Harford County and Baltimore County. It's a part of Rock State Park, but it's not a contiguous property. It's a separate 60-something acre property a few miles away. Because finding the actual park and parking lot with waterfalls can sometimes be a challenge, I'm going to record video of both approaching from the south as though one were coming from Baltimore, and from the north as though one were coming from Pennsylvania. This is Claremont Mill Road that we're on right now, and we're now going to make a left on the Falling Branch Road. Further directions will be posted in text in the video, but the parking area is on Falling Branch Road. There are some directions floating around on the internet that give an address on Claremont Mill. I don't know whether the address is technically Claremont Mill or not, but the actual parking area is on Falling Branch. Falling Branch Road is a single lane gravel surface. It does have a weight restricted bridge where it crosses Falling Branch, so if you've got an RV or another large vehicle, just keep that in mind. We don't have to cross it coming from Claremont Mill. You can see the entrance sign here. It's very clear. Big yellow gates. If the park is closed, you know, you're not getting in. This is the parking area. There's space for about 20 vehicles, and there are a lot of signs about not parking on the road, so please don't do that. Somebody's been doing donuts in here. Don't do that either. Heading southbound on Claremont Mill, it's a little easier because you've got those power lines to kind of follow, which gives you an idea of where the waterfall is, because the easement for them crosses directly upstream of the waterfall. But we're going to pass St. Mary's Road here on Claremont Mill. Might be Claremont. And then again, Falling Branch. I think I might have said right last time and I meant left, so we'll have to redo that. I've been keeping quiet so you could enjoy the sound of the birds and the snow crunching, but here we get our first glimpse at Falling Branch. It looks like the water level's actually fairly low today. Well, actually this must not be the branch because it's flowing the wrong direction. Strike that. Hey, it's been a long time since I've been here. Cut me some slack. This was actually the last waterfall I visited in Maryland before I moved down to Alabama for law school in 2005. So it's been 10 years since I've been here. Yeah, that was actually a small feeder stream. I'm hoping that the snow will avoid melting long enough to get some pictures of the waterfall with the snow, but when you add warm and snow, you don't really know what you're gonna get. Although the hike is fairly short. Now we're getting our first glimpse of Falling Branch down there in that valley. This is always a good sign. Mountain laurel. And hemlocks. There you go. It's a much better view of Falling Branch, and you can see it's a rather substantial stream, so I'm not sure what I was thinking before, but let's stop for a second and note that there's an old structure here, visible with trees growing out of it. Then continue on because I hear the waterfall. And for me, that's a sound that I can't resist, so the longer I stand here, the more impatient I'll get. So I'm not standing there anymore. You notice that the trail split there. We'll start off on the lower split. Which brings us to the stream itself. It gives us a distant view of the falls. If I remember correctly, there is a way to cross the stream at the base, which, pursuant to one of the Josh's 10 rules of visiting waterfalls, crossing above the falls is fairly high on the list of things not to do. So if I can find that spot, I'll be happy, but I don't see it. Aha! Oh, this should be interesting with the snow. You can see somebody has made a nice little rock crossing, and there's a bench over there, so obviously I'm intended to be over there, but with the snow it's somewhat difficult to follow the trail, especially since people have walked somebody has walked all over the place since it snowed. You can see, my guess is raccoon prints. We'll follow them briefly, since they're going the way we're going anyway. I think I'm gonna have to use this secondary crossing, which is a little bit more dodgy looking. The water is a little high, but I'm wearing backup sneakers just in case. Oh yeah, no, this is the original crossing because you can see the concrete circles. Oh yeah, wet shoes. Good thing I brought backups. Always bring backup shoes when visiting waterfalls. Oh, and the raccoon tracks continue. There we go. According to the Maryland Geological Survey, Falling Branch Falls behind me is the second largest free-falling waterfall in the state of Maryland. Now that says a little bit about the type of waterfalls we have in Maryland, which are mostly cascading type waterfalls that fall diagonally rather than vertically. It's just a quirk of our geology. The waterfall actually goes by at least 3 different names: Falling Branch Falls, Falling Creek Falls, and Kilgore Falls. I've also heard Kilgore's Rock Falls. The reason for the confusion is the waterfall is on Falling Branch of Deer Creek, and it falls through a formation called Kilgore's Rock behind me. The waterfall is on a 60-something acre parcel of land that was previously private property, and so the waterfall was fairly unknown for, since colonial times, basically, other than to locals, because it was on private property and not accessible to the public. It was added to Rock State Park in 1993, and for a long time it was open just during the sort of milder weather months of the year and was closed in the winter. Nowadays it's open, I think, from March through November, 9 a.m. to sunset, and then during the winter it's open from 10 to sunset. But the waterfall is directly behind me. You can see that it is free falling. The rock does obscure your view, but I've included plenty of video of it. As you saw from the hike in, it's a very easily accessible waterfall, aside from having to cross Falling Branch, which, depending on the water levels, you might be stuck on this view only because the water can sometimes cover the rocks that you use to cross Falling Branch. The waterfall, unfortunately, does appear to be a swimming hole in the summer, so there is the usual amount of, you know, garbage, like beer cans and stuff like that. I even found a rather large amount of PVC pipe that I removed from the plunge pool. So, you know, if you're gonna visit here, can you guys please not make a mess? You know, I mean, we share this state park, and, you know, those of us who don't make a mess would like to not have to step around your garbage. But, you know, as you can see, the waterfall has the potential to be rather scenic. Today's kind of a dreary day at the moment, so you know, you're getting kind of dreary video, but it does get a nice blue tint in the plunge pool, and so it is nice for photography if you can keep those power lines that they've conveniently placed directly over the waterfall out of the frame. The other issue is it's not a great waterfall for sunrise photography, because the sun happens to rise directly behind Kilgore's rock here. So if you're facing, if your camera is set up anywhere on that side of the stream, you've got the sun in your face. And unfortunately, the rock really obscures photography from this side. But that's Falling Branch Falls. stepping back for a moment to the structure that we passed before we branched at the trail, I'm going to show you how to get to the top of the waterfall, although normally that's not something that I recommend. Hanging out around the tops of waterfalls is not a particularly safe place to be, but you know, this is a guide, so I figure I'll show you how to do it. So, noting that the building is right before the split in the trail, and you can see the snow kind of obscures things a little bit, but there's a structure in this there's two stands of hemlocks here, one over in that direction, and then the one I'm standing directly underneath, a mountain laurel on the side. And so you can tell that you're in a good place whenever you see hemlock and mountain laurel, because those are some of my favorite plants to see, because they mean nice dark canyony places with waterfalls, and often orchid certain orchid species like these conditions too. So if you follow the trail right past that section, and the trail does appear to be some sort of an old road here, or at least it's been very well constructed. You can see that there's a large hemlock there, and if you head that direction towards the sound of the water, you run into the lower trail to the falls, which we took before. Now, if you go up the hill following the mountain laurel, you can get to the top of the waterfall. Now, it's not particularly attractive up here because the power line easement does cross the stream right above the waterfall, so it's not ideal, but you know, those things happen. As I said, according to the Maryland Geological Survey, this is the second largest free-falling waterfall in the state of Maryland. That's mostly because our waterfalls are mostly either small or cascade type waterfalls. So you can see it's quite steep up here. This is probably not the best type of weather to be up here. I do this a lot, so I'm not terribly nervous, but I do hate heights. So, but I'm gonna stay good and safe by keeping a healthy distance from the edge. And the power lines cross right there, you can see. I'm not sure if that's a trail or not, but looks like it. Somebody's been here this morning, and you can see you have to, this is a little safer here, but I'm gonna call it quits today. You can see the waterfall is right here, just because this is really, really slick, and I don't really feel like going for a ride today. Well, actually, it looks like there's kind of a switchback here, and that's really somebody's shortcut. Yeah, there is. There's actually something of a switchback here that people have just been avoiding. Yeah, this is a much safer route. So take the switchback, not the shortcut, folks, because you know, shortcuts equal erosion. I'm not a big, you know, person to fuss about off-trail hiking, because, you know, I do a lot of it looking for orchids and whatnot, but, you know, if the property that you're at says not to do it, don't do it. Here you can see the top of the falls, and this is as close as I'm going to get. Just because, you know, one of the ways that I stay safe doing things like nature photography, and especially waterfall photography, is not messing around with heights. Okay, I know I said that was as close as I was going to get to the waterfall, but I have an idea of how to safely get you a picture, well, some video from above the waterfall. So I'm actually going to try it. I'm going to do it safely, however, and keep my distance by holding the camera out using the tripod as a cantilever. We'll see if it works. Since I'm sure my mother is going to watch this, Ma, I swear I did this safely. Now, since I know that I just freaked my mother out, and I'm going to get a ton of questions about how I did that safely, you can see I'm a nice safe distance away from the edge. You know, I'm on a flat surface, and what I've done is I've taken my camera tripod and dug it into the snow and mud a little bit, and then I just sort of leaned the tripod over the edge, using it as sort of a cantilever structure. I wouldn't do that with one of my DSLRs, but you know, the GoPro is going to survive the trip, so it's worth the chance. So that's a little waterfall trick. I still don't recommend it. Being at the top of waterfalls is dangerous, but you know, I took a calculated risk, and I'm responsible if I get hurt, and so are you. So be safe out there. Excuse me for having to read from my teleprompter here, but since this is going to be a series of video guides, starting with the waterfalls in Maryland, and I'll probably move to Pennsylvania or West Virginia next and do that. Not literally move, don't anybody panic. So I figured I'd read out my waterfall rules because I did mention them earlier in the video. So I'm going to have to read them out. First rule is use common sense. Ultimately, you're responsible for your safety. Don't be an idiot out here. The second is remember that rocks are hard and water is strong. Waterfalls are made of water and rock. They are made by water out of rock, so that illustrates how powerful water is, not water are. My sister's cringing. You are soft and carried easily by water. You squish on rock, so be careful. Never cross upstream of a waterfall. If you have no choice, cross as far upstream as possible, and never cross a stream that is deep or fast. Getting washed over the falls or slipping over the edge due to wet rocks can be fatal. It's happened hundreds and hundreds of times. Plenty of waterfalls on private properties have been closed because of people making that very mistake. Never stand, play, photograph, or otherwise be around the top of a waterfall. Now, you saw me come very close to breaking that rule, but I did it in a safe way. I still don't recommend that you hang out around the top of a waterfall. Don't swim in or around the plunge pool of a waterfall. I know a lot of people love to do this, but it's just not smart. Sometimes the stream carries rocks down. Sometimes people are up there and drop rocks. Rocks are hard. Your head is soft. You ever notice how rocks are distributed at the bottom of a waterfall? They got there somehow. They fell over the waterfall, or they cracked off from it. Sometimes the currents around waterfalls can be very, very strong, depending on the size of the waterfall. It's just not a good idea to swim around them. Don't consume alcohol around a waterfall, because you're likely to do all the stupid stuff I just told you not to do. Don't trespass to access waterfalls. Unless you're in one of those weird states where there's no such thing as trespassing unless it's posted, just assume that if it's on private property, you don't belong there. That's not legal advice, by the way. And I'm not your lawyer. I am a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. Follow leave no trace to the best of your ability. I'm not, you know, one of those people who, you know, would insist on you carrying your poop out or something like that, but, you know, don't litter, deface, vandalize, graffiti, or otherwise destroy the waterfall or any natural area. You ruin it for everybody else. Don't throw or push anything over the falls. Rocks are hard, again. It turns out there's actually 15 rules. I thought there were only 10. Like I said, it's been a few years since I dealt with all this stuff. Don't camp around the waterfall or make a fire ring around it. In fact, really, don't make fire rings that aren't already established. It's just as bad as littering. Watch your footing. Waterfalls are slippery. Rocks are hard. Again, rocks are hard. You are soft and filled with fragile objects. Watch your children and pets. Waterfalls are slippery. Rocks are hard. Your children are soft. Your pets are soft. Especially watch your dogs, because they don't know anything about heights. And small children too, because they slip easily. No bare feet. Carry a spare pair of shoes if you have to. Carry Crocs, but you know, Crocs. Anything that you can do to avoid being barefoot around waterfalls. Unfortunately, because people break the rule about littering, there's a lot of glass around waterfalls. Unless you're, you know, somewhere deep in a national forest, like Bankhead National Forest in Alabama, where, you know, a significant off-trail hike is required to visit the waterfall, there's a good chance there's glass in the water, so just be careful. And finally, take pictures, have fun. That's not really a rule, that's just good advice.